2-2.
Hello. Okay, we're live. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the Ministry of Health for hosting us. I'm Kelsey Warner, the future editor at the national newspaper in Abu Dhabi, where I cover what trends and innovations are reshaping society, which is why I'm very excited to be with this esteemed panel today talking precision medicine. We have Ashish Koshi, CEO of G42 Health, Dr. Stephen Grobmeyer, chair of the Oncology Institute at Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi, and a professor of surgical oncology. Dr. Asma Al-Manai, Executive Director at the Research and Innovation Center at the Department of Health, and Dr. Fatima Al-Kabi, Executive Director of the Genome and Health Affairs Office, and Dr. Shahrukh Hashmi, Consultant and Chair of the Hematology Division at SSMC. Thank you all for being here. Dr. Asma, I want to start with you just briefly. Taking a step back, we won't assume prior knowledge here today, so no jargon from any of you. Let's just define precision health, precision medicine to get us going. Thank you.
And you got it right. Precision medicine, precision health is an interrelated, terminology. What does it mean? It means that we are going to provide the treatment, the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. Basically, this is what healthcare should be doing. And it is based on information, based on science that is of a certain person. So based on your phenotypic and genotypic data, and this is a jargon, which is basically your information, your genetic makeup, and that will guide what is your future possibility of getting a disease. It will determine how the treatment plan is going to be designed for you. We are moving away from one size fits all. The healthcare is witnessing a full transformation right now, and I no longer accept that I need to take a pill that may or may not work for me. I need my treatment to be designed and tailored for my needs, for my genetic composition. I need to be well aware before I get the disease from a prevention point of view. This is what precision health is bringing now. And this is what we are pushing forward into transforming how healthcare needs to be delivered. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ashish, swinging it over to G42. G42 Healthcare was really kind of the linchpin of the operational response to COVID-19 in Abu Dhabi. There was rapid scale up for you guys. Can you talk about, in terms of precision medicine, what that gave you in terms of the opportunity you now see and what your audacious goals are?
Sure. Thank you, Kelsey. And I would disagree with the word linchpin, but nevertheless, I think we are honored to be a strong partner to the government and to the Department of Health. As Dr. Asma mentioned, COVID pandemic has definitely fast-tracked the speed of deployment and development and implementation of precision medicine and also digital transformation. I remember the days in 2018 walking around for a budget for digital transformation, and nobody had time for that. But now they see the value. And I think across the COVID pandemic, just talking about really quickly what we have done, we built capability for COVID testing diagnostics. We've built capability of running clinical trials for the right medicines here. We've built a local capability of running a CRO. We brought in wearables, which is a key factor to drive personalized medicine or precision in the clinical trial. Genomics, as Dr. Asma rightly put. So we have one of the largest infrastructures under Dr. Fatima running the Emirati Genome program. And eventually, I think data is key, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm part of this esteemed panel. Data is key for this decision making. We've built a platform where we have the phenotypical data and the genomics and wearables put together, because eventually we want to unlock precision medicine. There has to be the variability in individuals' genes, their lifestyle and environment. And here we have tools capturing all these together, put together in the right platform for the right individuals to take cutting-edge decisions to support them. And I think that's how we've moved from what we learned from the COVID pandemic to deploying it here.
Would you mind just getting a little more granular for us when you talk about wearables, you talk about genotype and phenotype? Can you just talk about the data that G42 Healthcare is actually collecting to improve precision healthcare?
Sure. So EGP is a program which I'm sure Dr. Fatima will talk about more in detail, is genomics at scale. But beyond that, we have a product called Malafi, which is the Health Information Exchange. So irrespective of any hospital visit, it's consolidated in a central place under the Department of Health. Secondly, we are working with multiple partners in testing prototypes. I'm wearing a CGM now. I wear Apple Health. If you open your Malafi platform now, you can see it's already integrated in. So this is the time for partners to come in so that the clinicians, when you visit a hospital, as again what Dr. Asma said, you don't need to describe what you're going through. The doctor knows what's going through and he can proactively take some steps there.
Dr. Gromeyer, I want to bring you in and talk about Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi's initiatives. On the oncology unit in particular, you've had some use cases in precision medicine. Can you talk us through a couple of those?
Certainly, and thank you first for having me here. And also, thank you to Dr. Asma, Dr. Fatima, and all those at the Department of Health who've allowed us to participate in a lot of the exciting work that's been happening. Let me give you two examples of how we have taken the initiative, along with our partners, to bring precision medicine to the bedside using local resources. When I arrived to UAE in 2019, genetic testing, that is studying the genes that you inherit from your parents that predict whether or not you have cancer, was uncommonly done in the UAE. When we did it, it was being sent abroad, largely in our case to the United States or to Europe, and it would be long delays in getting that information back. And in 2020-21, we had the privilege of being asked to lead the flagship program 2, or the oncology flagship program for the Emirati Genome Project, and we brainstormed and we started to ask, how can we leverage the great resources that are around us and transform healthcare in the UAE? So we initiated a pilot, and what we did was we studied the genetics of breast cancer patients using the sequencing facility at G42 and a lot of the infrastructure there and the reporting. And we were actually, in record time, able to bring those results back to patients, and we showed that we could do this safely, efficiently, and effectively. And that is leading now to a transformation where this is going to become, I think, in the near future, very commonplace or offered for our patients. So in the last 3 years, we've really come full circle. Not commonly done to not only doing it now, but doing it locally and doing it very well at a very rapid rate. So we're really positioned well. One other example I will tell you is when we look at cancer in 2023, we used to think that a lung cancer was a lung cancer was a lung cancer, or a breast cancer is a breast cancer is a breast cancer. We no longer think of cancer in that way, and we subtype cancers, and we've developed very specific treatments for different types of breast cancer, for instance. When I arrived in 2019, a very important test called HER2 molecular testing. HER2 is a receptor on some breast cancer cells that really has a lot to do to determine what treatment we had. Again, we were sending these tests abroad to the United States. Long delays to care and very costly. Working with our partners at NRL, we now, for the first time as of about a year ago, are able to do this testing for our patients and all patients in the UAE locally. We're doing it very well, we're doing it faster, and we're doing it cheaper. So this is just two examples. There are many we could talk about, but it's really an exciting time, and it's really been enabled by the great partnerships that we have here.
Thank you, Dr. Shirk. I want to bring you in now, too, to talk about use cases again, but in this case, how it impacts working culture for practitioners. SSMC is similarly providing use cases in this field as well. So we've already talked about examples. Can you talk about how this changes the work culture for the healthcare practitioners you work with?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thanks to the DOH as well for having this panel discussion. It does change the health culture quite a bit when you're looking at patients not as a patient in one size fits all, but really tailoring the treatments, as Steve mentioned, based on the receptors, which we know for their targeted therapies. So I think the culture changes from very, very generalized medicine to personalized medicine in the sense that we're tailoring treatments not based on genomics, but also phenotype as well as sociotype. That's another thing I would introduce today, actually. And I'll explain you what that is. The people who cannot afford things, who cannot even take medications at home properly, it's very hard to give them very expensive chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or other things if it's not sustainable socially for them. So we're introducing all these angles for a culture change for a particular patient to be a part of the healthcare community and take some charge of their health to get themselves, actually. And for that, actually, this type of as Ashish mentions, data is very important for us to enable that culture to make algorithms which can predict, not based on genomics, but genomics, phenotype, and the social health of a particular patient. We're doing that now at SSMC, and I'm sure other places as well.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Fatima, it's now time to talk about the Emirati Genome Project, which I think we're all fascinated to know more about. Can you talk about where you fit into this conversation and how the Emirati Genome Project is playing a role?
Thank you so much. And I just want to emphasize, the name is Emirati Genome, but the aim is not for just Emiratis, so we just need to emphasize on this point. So what is the vision? Everyone is asking me, why are you doing this? Why? I mean, okay, so there should be a vision. It's very simple, how to help people live better. Let's simplify our language as well. We want to go from a reactive system to a proactive system. And going there would need not only scientific evidence, it needs also gut feelings, yeah? So we come with genomics, we come with epigenetics. What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is what tells the genome to be on and off. So maybe gut feeling, I don't know. So going forward with this program, it's a vision of the leadership to have it, and it should be starting 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And we are continuing and building within it. To make it very simple, some of the programs that help achieve this is the pilot programs that happened in Abu Dhabi, and I think it's going to be propagated to all Emirates as well, as it's a federal program. So going forward, thanks to Dr. Stephen and his team, they started the breast cancer genetic journey, meaning that it's going to transform the way we think about breast cancer. The diagnosis will be fast, the right treatment will be earlier, and it's soon going to be the normal pathway for any patient with breast cancer, without the overcomplication of the conventional chemo and so on. And then it takes us to a different bit. Patient with breast cancer, the family get panics, and here where we have also the resources to test all the family and see where we can stop it from where it starts. So going to a second program, the pharmacogenomics. So everyone is different. I have a lot of friends saying, well, I have a headache, but Panadol doesn't do anything, but Profen does something. And then, no, I take this, but this works. And they are right. And as conventional doctors before, we were saying, no, it's all in your mind. It's not in their mind. It's in their genetics. It's in their genes. So saying that, now with the program, and it's piloted by Abu Dhabi Stem Cell Center, Dr. Maysoon here from the group, and Dr. Yasmin, I see her back there. So basically, they are testing 118 drugs, and I think 3 out of 5 has issues so far with only 50 patients. So this is alarming, and this is something that we would I think I'm excited to know the end result of these programs for the audience and the people. Going to being a country where culture is so precious, and we are here driven by our culture, and we don't want to touch our culture. We have a lot of consanguinity marriages, so we have a lot of genetic diseases. We have 240 monogenetic unknown diseases, saying that we're running a program for rare and metabolic diseases. We're running this program for premarital testing. Do you know how many tests we do for couples before they get married? Anyone can tell me a number? What is the test? How many tests we do for our couples? Anyone for public health? How many? You got it? 20? No. So it's 11, 3 from of genetics, the rest is infectious. Now we're testing 845 genes. So 845 genes for couples, and then it gets alert and say, okay, they have a problem. What do? I'm in love. I want to get married. What Allah will give me, right? This is what we hear. Let's be very realistic. So what the government pathway is, no, we advise you, we counsel you, and we go through a program in the IVF centers where we do a implantation test, the pre-pregnancy test. So why don't we use science rather than changing our culture? We are not going to change our culture for anything. So we're getting in there. So this is where the program comes, sensitive to the culture, sensitive to the people, with an aim to have a healthier, better life for everyone in the UAE, not only Emiratis.
Okay, you corrected me at the top of that by saying it's not the Emirati Genome Project, it's just a genome project. So what does that mean, and what's the invitation for people to participate? Is there an invitation for people to participate?
Yes, what I would say, since we are starting and building the policy around it, of course we are so, I'll go through history. Through history, the genomic programs were used a bit in a not a very nice way, that insurance companies used it against employers and against providing medical care. So we're trying to build and create the full safe system for everyone to have access to this program, which I think the regulators is working so hard in doing so.
We're bringing her in now. Okay, so I feel like we've laid a base now, and so it's time to bring the regulator in and talk, Dr. Asma, about how do you think about frontier technology and actually overlaying a regulatory framework on something like precision medicine?
We have realized that a regulator can be a bottleneck or an enabler, and we chose the latter. We want to move fast forward in adopting the new innovative approach that would improve the quality of care for our patient. Our patients are number one, and you reach with conventional medicine into a certain stage that there is nothing available on the shelf in order to provide a better care. The only solution is to innovate. And in order to enable innovation, we have to be an enabling regulator. So with the power of data, we are not taking risks here. With the power of data and information, we are able to generate real-world evidence, real-world data. We know what works and what does not work. And in terms of precision medicine, we are full believers that this is how healthcare needs to be delivered. Precise, is individualized, personalized health, not only medicine. And in order to do that, we have certain regulatory tools like the policies, the regulations, and we support the full ecosystem. So in terms of enabling, in terms of financing, and in terms of communicating and empowering the patient and the community to make the right decision, also in order to adopt more of the advancement that is happening in innovation. Regulating the future is difficult because it's unknown. However, if we are part of this journey, if we talk together, if we are there in the front line and we know what is being developed in the R&D domain, we will be, as a regulator, better equipped of what needs to be done, so we don't strangle innovation. We don't still treat the advancement in healthcare with the mentality of the, let's say, centuries old. We want to be there on the front line. As a regulator, we work closely with the industry, we work closely with the provider and the international leaders and the thoughtful minds in the academia part in order to co-create the future. We are there with them, not waiting for solutions to come up and then we'll evaluate, does it work, does not work. We'll co-create together, and that's the key to success.
I want to make a note that we're going to open up to Q&A in a few minutes. You can't hear me? You can hear me now? I'm going to say that we're going to open up to Q&A in a few minutes, so be thinking about questions. In the meantime, Ashish, I want to bring it to you and talk. We've been talking local genome, local laws. Let's talk local talent, local knowledge, and I want to also bring it to you guys at the hospitals as well, is how do you actually develop the local talent to be able to pull these things off?
I think I'll just follow up exactly what Dr. Asma had mentioned. Yes, to create a sustainable future of these programs towards precision medicine, you have to develop a clinical decision support system, but with two caveats. It has to be with the right data and also with the right team of experts. Just because data is being generated at G42, it is useless if I don't get a community of experts, of healthcare practitioners, university individuals to come, and also industry experts to come from abroad, and then create an ecosystem that, to an example how Dr. Fatima mentioned, how a simple genome sequencing project is now changing lives in cancer detection. That's the kind of use cases that we want to work with. So we ourselves are working with universities such as MBZU AI, which is the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, Khalifa University, bringing researchers, training on this data. And when we talk about data, these are research-grade data that's coming out of EGP, Malafi, Shefafia, all in a central. My objective here is to provide a ecosystem to allow innovation happening and to make the right clinical decisions to happen. I think the future is bright by bringing the entire panel together and looking at these data sets.
Would you care to add on?
I would comment about the importance of developing local talent. We are very focused on this and we're committed to it. And the next question is, how are we doing that? We're doing it through continuing to develop training programs that are specifically geared to develop local talent. In our business and taking care of patients in hospitals, that's really through residency training, fellowship training, and we continue to grow and expand our offerings for the whole spectrum of medical trainees so we can bring them along. Another innovative thing we're working on and actively doing is faculty and staff exchange with our partners in the United States. And so we have already had a faculty exchange where faculty from Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi will go to Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, spend a few weeks, and vice versa. Because we recognize that there are many lessons learned when our faculty go there, but we also believe we have a lot to offer the other direction. So we've also had exchange of faculty the other way, but this is a major commitment that we have to make this a self-sustaining environment and to improve the healthcare for the long term here in the UAE.
Thank you, Dr. Sharif.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, so I agree with Steve. That's what we're doing actually. And also, as Ashish mentioned, the collaboration part with MBZU AI and NYU and Khalifa University is critically important for us. In exchange, there are students coming here, postdocs coming here to the hospital, SSMC, and vice versa, people going there for projects. To be more specific, we have 3 medical schools from UAE rotating full-time at SSMC, the Khalifa University Medical School, UAU, and GMU. And then residency and fellowship programs, we've got the highest number in the country, but most of them are ACGMEI accredited, actually. As Fatma started the first program of hematology, though credit goes to her, but we've got a lot of those programs, and faculty development, as Steve mentioned, is going on as well. But we're also teaching them about clinical trials, innovate, discover, actually. And for that, we're having multiple courses. And the DOH did the first course last summer, but a series of courses coming, and we teach the practical things. What is phase 1 clinical trial unit? What are the implications why phase 1 is different? What is CAR-T, ATMP regulations in Europe? CAR-T, gene therapy, cell therapy, and cybersecurity. I mean, for example, these things, writing protocols, all these things we're teaching on based on digital trials and clinical trials. And digital trials, a lot, we're training people now to develop the local talent is based on AI and IoTs, basically. That's what the next generation is going to be for clinical trials as well.
Can you talk a little bit more about the clinical trial unit and where precision medicine is coming into play?
Sure, thank you. Well, we were very thankful to DOH inaugurating the clinical trials unit at SSMC just 2 weeks ago. And thank you for everybody to be there during the inauguration. This is actually going to be open for the whole country. Universities, hospitals, clinics. We were very fortunate to have most of the hospitals, Cleveland Clinic team for research, they came over as well. Many other hospital systems and universities and G42. We're thankful to them because this, as Ashish mentions, this ecosystem has to be complete. That you discover something at the Khalifa University, for example, to be specific. You want to do the innovation trial, there's a biotech, there's a CRO, in the UAE, and then there's the people who can execute that at the clinical trials unit, dedicated staff in space, and then the regulators, as people know here, they're one of the fastest in the world to approve the clinical trials currently. The UAE is a landmark victory for that. So that's how we're going to be doing trials, everybody working together. And the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Fatima, I want us to peer into the future a bit. Okay, so precision medicine has the potential to unlock, it already has unlocked a lot of innovation in biotech. Thinking about what it might unlock in Abu Dhabi in the decades to come, can you spin us a tale a little bit about precision medicine in the future? Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm going to use a word, I'm not sure if it's a true word. We are unfictionizing the science fiction. So, so we are in the midst of digital revolution now, where a lot of disruption to tradition will happen, a lot of discomfort will happen. Saying that, the four future things, and this is, I'm gonna, for any young people who's going to universities, this is what I'm going to advise them to go into. Artificial intelligence, genomics, robotics, energy renewals. So taking all of this, converging it, and you have precision medicine. So I'm proud to say that now within this panel, you have the regulation, you have the providers, researchers, you have the infrastructures, you have the government, you have everyone. Why I'm saying this? Because partnership is key. Partnership within, partnership outside. This is where we're aiming to. Let me, since we are in Arab Health, and I know that there is a lot of business-minded people here, let me speak about money a little bit. So when we speak about all of these technologies, when you converge them, for now, you can say the revenue of it may be 7-9 trillion. I'm just giving a ball figure there. In 2030, when you put all of this and trajectory of it reaching to 100 times, 200 trillion, then we will say, what if I studied that? What if I did that? So the investment in these fields, and you can all see the chat GPT, you can all see all of these things, is crucial for us to utilize it in the right way. And another question will be, shall we regulate it? I don't know. Maybe we should. But we shouldn't regulate it without creating the right balance for its effect. What are the elements? The elements are the infrastructure. G42, I don't know, I will urge anyone, it's not an advertisement, but who like to see, who was in love with science fiction movies to go there and live it. It's in Masdar, right? Yeah. So it's one of the huge facilities that you walk in and you will feel proud that this is going on. Then you go through the data management and element, and you have Mohammed bin Zayed AI University, which is one of the first university just to deal with AI. They just graduated their first batch with 24 nationalities. So it's a proud moment. You go into how will we create the diagnostic tool from our information, not the information that we get from outside. How will we create the clouds that people can go in, play around, create the sandbox mentality that will give us answers. So digital revolution is there, precision medicine revolution is there. I think I'm maybe overselling it here, but I can see within the next 2 years or 3 years that if we sat on the same panel, we will be having revolutionary products that would save lives. And I think this is a proud moment for us all to be together and leverage on what's there and work closely with each other to achieve what we want to achieve.
Ashish, I can sense that you might want to add to this.
No, I mean, Dr. Fatima mentioned AI, genomics, and I think that's
all your favorite words.
And then she mentioned the lab, so that's about it.
I mean, a year ago, though, you and I were sitting here and we were talking about wearables, and we were trying to unpack for the audience what kind of data insights, wearables, and I feel like the conversation has already evolved, even in just the last year, the fact that we're having this conversation today. So, Dr. Asma, I want to bring you in as the regulator. Part of getting precision medicine off the ground is actually to get patient consent and patient understanding, and to actually bring the public along on this journey that Abu Dhabi has now kind of embarked on. So kind of, I guess, bring us full circle, and how do you actually get the public buy-in to
By all means. Actually, there are certain key principles on ethics that no one is going to dispute about. But we have to be mindful. We are regulating for what generation? We are moving with the Generation Z and others who are different than the old generation, and we have to acknowledge this. So the future generation is not going to deal with the usual convention medicine. Precision medicine, for example, or precision health is going to be, for granted. The way right now, what the Department of Health launched on the metaverse is a mechanism where we can reach out for the new generation, because this is their world. If we want to be ready for the future, we have to understand our customers, not our patient, our customers. And our customers, they come with a different mentality. They come with a different, environment around innovation and their perception toward their request. How would I want to be treated? Today, I was chatting with a colleague of mine. Her daughter approached her and said, "Mom, I think I'm suspected to have X and Y disease." The mother was shocked. And then, they sought a specific medical advices, and the daughter, the teenager, was right. And the mother, who is a doctor, never suspected and never knew. They are very well knowledgeable, and the tools to diagnose and the tools to be aware and knowledgeable is already there. Give a question to a ChatGPT. I don't want you to go into my mind because I think you are going to be surprised, but just let me tell you about a possibility that we use a technology, an AI technology, that can, take all the elements of information, which is the symptoms and signs that any patient would like to share, run an algorithm about what is the possible diagnosis which is available in textbook, and come up with a differential diagnosis, use this information of the patient real phenotypic and genotypic data, come up with a precision plan, and here it goes. No more. I'm trying to convince my daughter to drop off medical school because this is another. We are witnessing right now a transformation in technology, and healthcare is going to pass through this transformation of technology. AI, algorithm analysis, creation of a precision personalized medicine is going to be, utilizing such a platform, and healthcare delivery is going to be different. It's going to be on a different platform, different, tools that will be the norm for the future generation. As a regulator, we have to be mindful. Our principles of regulating, it will not work for the future. So this is why we chose to partner, to walk through and be forward thinker with the technology driven, mindset. Thank you.
If I can just add to that, we have currently some algorithms similar to what Dr. Asma just described. You can look across the database and identify patients like me. And at prior, you can see people who are having the same symptoms, query it, and immediately pull in these data sets. We have algorithms that can combine these data sets together, but it's critical, and I'm sure the healthcare practitioners will agree that this needs to be put in a clinical setting. Otherwise, it'll remain a research product, and that's a challenge. How do we transfer that from a great algorithm that's lying there in, say, a G42 or a Khalifa University, but transfer that through the right ecosystem to a clinical setting to make that difference?
If I may just add, we firmly believe in the power of artificial intelligence to transform the future. But what's really exciting is it's already having an impact on our patients. And let me give you an example of that. 3 weeks ago, we launched our radiation oncology program at Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi. And we have adopted a new paradigm for radiation therapy, which involves artificial intelligence. It's called adaptive radiotherapy. This is brand new technology. And let me explain to you briefly what it does and why it's important. Using artificial intelligence, we can now more precisely target on a daily basis the radiation that's delivered, and we can increase the efficacy of the radiation that's delivered and reduce the damage to normal tissue. When a patient traditionally got radiation therapy, they would go to the doctor, a CT scan, for instance, would be done, and the radiation oncologist would make a plan, and that plan would be implemented every day for the next 3 or 4 weeks for the entire duration. Now with artificial intelligence, our radiation oncologist, on a daily basis, based on the scan of the day, the organs in the body move, the tumor shrinks, the tumor grows. Within a very short time span, on a daily basis, using artificial intelligence, they can recontour the exact plan for that patient each day. And this, we know now, is leading to increased efficacy of radiation and a decreased toxicity. So I think the future is bright, but we have the future in front of us right now, and it's a very exciting time.
I can add something too. I fully agree with Steve. It's already happening. And I'm very proud to say that UAE is the first 3 countries on earth which actually is using an artificial intelligence-based software for clinical purposes for detection of polyps. Like the polyps, it's actually hundreds of miles of epithelium in the GI tract in the colon, which no human naked eye can see. So machine learning algorithms will go through it, will detect the polyps that are not visible, early treat it to save lives. US, FDA, Israel, and UAE, GI Genius, FDA-approved therapy, and then we talked with the regulators 1 year ago. And we started that product, and the whole Middle East was really putting this out, that Middle East is actually no longer talking about science fiction. We're talking about real-world clinical use data, FDA-approved and UH approved in Abu Dhabi. We're using that, fortunately, and many more algorithms are coming up, and many more, and unfortunately, research, we're going to be putting in many more type of clinical trials which are based on digital AI technology and IoTs, which are variables. Thank you.
I'd really like to swing it over to the audience if anyone has any questions in our last few minutes. Does anyone have? Yes, somebody's coming to you with a microphone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very futuristic vision for the government, and we live it. So we hope to continue this successful journey. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sameh Haisa. I'm leading the market access function in Illumina, and of course you know Illumina. The question actually is related to the outcome of the diagnostics. So we all know that, as you have just mentioned, you're doing tests for many diseases, either in the rare genetic diseases or the oncology type and subtypes and so. But my question will be, what if you have diagnosed a patient with no medication available in the country? What will be the patient pathway at this point?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a great question, and we do that all the time. When we send for the just a precision medicine, since I'm going to be a little bit more technical, most of the people are here to listen about precision medicine. This is a real-world example. We send for cytogenetics, FISH, and NGS panels, targeted NGS panels. It does the mutation panels for lymphoid, solid tumors, like for example for breast, or for myeloid diseases. In leukemia, every day we get a mutation for which there's no treatment here. We actually import that. Same thing with many diseases, graft versus host disease. First ones to use bilomostil in the Middle East. Fortunately, the MOHAP and DOH really work together very well to enable these very expensive, very precise medications to come in the country and treat with outcomes that we're seeing already in our patients. So yes, there's a mechanism. When the treatment available, UAE will make that happen to get the treatment here. And that's happening already. Thank you.
And I would echo that and say that what we see, the gap is narrowing as teams like this work together. It's less and less common that we don't have treatments. And we continue to develop partnerships around the world that will enable new treatments to come here. So for instance, we were recently announced as the first site for 2 North American clinical cancer cooperative groups. These are the major groups in North America that conduct clinical trials. They have now designated CCAD as the site in the Middle East to conduct these trials. Things like this will continue to bring new drugs into the region and link us to the rest of the world, and actually put us in a position where we have the foundation and then we can begin to lead.
Any other questions?
Hello, thank you very much for the valuable insights. So is that correct to imagine that in the near future, what you're talking about is more twinning me as a person in a digital world? And saying so, my question is, being a millennial, I mean, I would love to be to be part of that program, but then my question is, how would you simplify the gathering of the data? Like either clinical data, social life data, etc. Are we thinking about, for example, like every 2 weeks or on a monthly basis, I would just send samples of my blood to test all of the biomarkers, genes, etc. But how can we like really simplify the gathering of those data, like without me going to the hospital and going through a whole process of being in the hospital, etc.
I'm assuming that's okay. So that's a great question, and I'll break it into multiple areas where we are living. So the first part is a digital twin. I do believe in the future, leverage the capabilities that we have and also the vision of this country, each individual would have his digital twin. And we are starting off with multiple programs under EGP. Like there's this ambitious program called newborn screening. Imagine if you have a capture of a genetic capture of that individual at the day, and then you can see, leveraging what Dr. Fatima previously mentioned, epigenetics and across the journey. Now, with respect to data, yes, wearables is something where you don't need to, you just need to sync to a hub or to the internet, and with the right consent, it will come directly into the platform. Now, blood sample for the genomics, it's one time. And however, it depends on if you want to go into any sort of changes or something that you need to do repeat like an epigenetic test. But I don't think it's going to be a very, say, a large exercise that you need to keep coming over across. But there are multiple ways that we can leverage technology and logistics. We've deployed sample collection with FedEx as a partnership where you can even sit at home and just order a test and you can come home to make it. So the goal is to use digital technologies and make that sample collection easier. At some point, we would love to talk about how the EGP outreach team works. It works on an awareness campaign. Individuals know what they're giving, how they're giving, and the way they're giving it. So I think, yes, it is a challenge, but I'm pretty sure soon digital technologies will resolve those challenges there.
We've got time for one more question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hi. So very often when we think about precision medicine is when a clinical condition arises and then the patient will have high incentives to follow the physician recommendations. But if in one day we can just prevent or predict at very early stage that the patient will develop a disease in 20, 30 years, what is, in your opinion, like the individual and society responsibilities that we should have in terms of doing as much as we can to not develop that disease, given the knowledge that we are given?
I think that's Dr. Fatima.
Well, that is one of the most important questions. So how can we prevent things from happening before it happens? So a prediction game, I would say, within valid data that we have. So the aim of having, so again, genetics is just one part of the story. It's a holistic system. It's where we live. It's the nature. It's the environment. It's your work, your stress, your mental, everything else into the individual that we put on. So going through programs like screening programs, let's say. Our screening programs are kind of, tradition. We do the blood tests and this and this. We do mammograms, we CTs, and so on. You take this layer, you add the genetic test onto it. You add the genetic test of your family into it. So the picture is more and more clearer. It can tell me that this person is predisposed to diabetes, for instance. Okay, predisposed to diabetes, what can be done? Very simple. Lifestyle changes, right? Let's go to the simple solutions. Now, let's go to this. Lifestyle changes, stress elimination, diets, and so on. So all of this needs to be put in a platform that talks the same language of the patient. Saying that, we are now aiming to reverse, right? We are saying we want to reverse, we want to regenerate, we want to use stem cell technologies, we want to use all of these things. All of this needs to happen in alignment within the biological markers you have, your history, your environment, and your stimuli that happens around you. One of the major aim of this program is a lot of the budget will be shifted from the reactive things in hospital, post-hospital care, to all pre-hospital setups. So this is what we're building with the group here, with the regulators and so on. I'll be very honest with you. Healthcare cost is tremendous. In this country, it's very high. Across US, we know it's one of the highest. If I go through places, there is a good health system, but it's not a comprehensive health system. What we aim to do is we want to revolutionize this. We want to create good access. We want to have a preventive program. We want to put our money where prevention is rather than where the disease is. So this is how we are looking at it from this perspective.
Yeah, I have a question here about the development of new pharmacological treatment and organoid testing of any new pharmaceutical treatment. Instead of testing them in the patient in clinical trials, testing them in the lab on a biopsy taken from the patient. So where are we from this advance?
Actually, this is the discussion. We are on continuous evaluation of the advancement that is happening in the R&D domain. Organoid labs are one of the potentials that we are discussing with our colleagues in the academia and how we can create and bring this forward. We want to be part of the drug discovery. We want our population to be more representative in the biopharma industry. And this is why we are extending our collaboration above and beyond the local, biopharma. We are working with international, multinational, agencies of drugs and biotech in order to accelerate the discoveries, bring more diversity, and contribute better. Yes, the phase of clinical research is changing, definitely. And now it's more toward organoid rather than animal studies, and we are witnessing the revolution, and we want to be part of this. So it's in the pipeline.
Can I add one thing? I think one of the most important things to have our own biobank, and I'm sure Dr. Asma was a bit. The leadership and the vision. So we are creating a national biobank. And it's going to be led, and of course, with an existing infrastructure like G42 and whatever is there would be someone who will be collaboratively going forward to it. So having a patient in SSMC who has cancer, there will be the the tissue sampling that would go into this biobank. So we will create the corporate academic model that would help us into this. But we have to have we are building our inner resources. We are building our capacity. We are building our workforce. So yes, partnering up, but again, I think within the next year, you'll be hearing excellent news about the biobank that we'll be having.
Okay, watch this space. Thank you all for how specific and tangible you were today, and thank you especially to the Department of Health. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.